What's going on, guys? This is Logan with West Desert Wheeler. Today we've got a fun comparison. I've got my personal Vanquish Class 2 truck, this guy over here with the cool paint job, and then we're going to compare that against the Vanquish Mullet. Now this Mullet is essentially built as intended from the kit, other than I swapped out some brass knuckles, and then I've got some cool wheels and tires for it, but I think that's pretty much a stock truck outside that. I haven't really modified it much. This guy, my Class 2, is based on the Vanquish VRD. It has Rock Pirate's VRD Kraken rails, and then I put straight axles on it from Vanquish, the F10 straight axles. Now the Mullet has an F10 straight axle in the front, but it has an F10 portal in the rear. As the name implies, it is a Mullet build, and I have videos on that truck specifically if you want to learn more about it. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it as we drive the trucks, but I'm going to run this on my Sidewinder trail, maybe a few extra bonus obstacles. Just get an overall view of, like, is the Mullet superior? Does it actually show where it's better in some places? Or on this specific trail, is it going to come out pretty much even? Now, my Class 2 has a Hobbywing Fusion motor in it, so that's a bigger, heavier motor than what I've got in my Mullet, which is going to be a Holmes Hobbies 1800 kV revolver with a secure ESC. So yeah, let's get to it. Let's see how this thing does. It has some of my absolute favorite tires, which are 3 years old. These are my BF Goodrich crawlers that are super scrubbed in, bald sidewalls, all that. It takes a ton of time to earn these. So I always appreciate when I see people with super scrubbed in tires. I think that's awesome. And then I've got them on the brand new Vanquish Delta wheels, fully loaded with scale hardware in gold. So let's check it out. We'll talk more details and let's see how these compare. Now, one of the big things that we've changed on both of these trucks recently is these now have Vanquish brass knuckles for the F10 straights. However, this guy actually has the optic knuckles because on this top knuckle here, it has that link that goes behind the axle. That's actually for the Vanquish optic, but I have H10 optic axles sitting in a box, which I bought these for, but it's going to wait a few more weeks before I start up a project with that. So I threw them on here for the time being, just so that both of these have Vanquish brass on them. Now this truck used to have SSD brass, and the pair of knuckles on that weighed 140 grams. Putting these Vanquish on bumped it up to 304 grams. So it's more than double the weight of what was on here. I used to run brass rings internal to my wheels. However, with this guy, I have now removed the brass rings because we added so much more forward weight. I'm really curious to see how this truck performs with just the brass and the knuckles and no more extra rotational mass, which is ideal. All right, here we go. First obstacle into the Sidewinder trail. This one's always super challenging. And with this truck, we will see how she does. So it's always been important to have a very aggressive forward bias to keep the front axle in control while we work our way up these multiple ledges where the truck ends up double ledged and you're trying to maintain a hook without letting the rear tires slip off where you don't want them to. And it takes a lot of finesse and driving skill. So some days I have it, some days I don't. We're gonna see if these tires have it. I haven't driven these tires in probably a year. They've been sitting in a cabinet. Yeah, right here. So the resets are where it becomes really important for a forward weight bias, so that when I back up and turn, I can control the truck how I intend it to. Yeah, I need to get that right rear a little more into the pocket where I'm trying to get it to go. That should set up the rear nice, but now it's super sideways. Pull, truck, pull. Yeah, this one's really tricky with a drag axle narrow truck. So let's drop off to the side. These wheels have SL3D squid inserts inside them. They are the new Vanquish 1.9 Deltas. They're the Battleborn wheels. I really like the design on them. It's one of the few wheels released recently, in the past few years probably, that I saw them and I was like, man, I gotta have a set of those. So Vanquish did a really good job on them. And then I bought Vanquish's scale hardware for them. Yeah, that right rear tire just not quite enough there to pull it up that ledge on the angle we've got it on. Okay, we're gonna see if we got it one more time. Tons of forward bias here. Getting the truck super sideways. Tons of steering power as well. What servo is in this guy? 777, one of my favorites. I run a lot of 777s. You can beat the absolute crap out of them and they just keep going. So shout out to the 777s from Reefs. I was pretty confident that it was a 777 in here, but I swapped some around recently and I don't know. I need to write down notes on my trucks, honestly. I forget which trucks have overdrive ring and pinions or underdrives, stuff like that. Yeah, that rear is a little too high now. Very, very close, but she's not pulling up it today. Tons of steering angle. Get that front left hooked up top. It's gonna go. There it is. Now our rear's in a bad spot. Try and get some repositions in here. A lot of little backups. See, our rear axle's so articulated now that now it's struggling to, we're struggling to control the truck. Come on. Left rear's on the wall and won't let go. That's it. That's it. All right. All right. That was it. That first big ledge is really the biggest challenge. Once you get past that, it's not too bad. And we didn't diff out on that little ledge either. All right, and here we have the Challenger, the Vanquish VRD Mullet. Now I will say the weather has changed from filming the first truck to now filming this one. It was like sunny and bright and beautiful and super calm, and now we got a little bit of wind and some overcast. So let's actually drive to keep that rear tire fairly low. Yeah. I'm afraid though, as I turn into this, it's gonna force the left rear off the wall. And then we need to get this thing to rotate over. We almost had it, but the reason we're making such fast progress on this is I learned how the line was supposed to be done from the Class 2. So the left rear was not on the wall. So a little punch to the camera. This is why I'm talking so much about forward bias with this setup, is because as it rocks back and weight transfers to the rear axle instead of the front, it's super important to keep that front end planted and not let it do that. But we're also asking this truck to go almost as steep as it can to reach this. Luckily these things have excellent turning angle. Yeah, we can't get it too sideways either. Yeah, it's just getting too sideways on us. So we took a little reverse to force a hook there. Sydney's chewing on a stick behind me, making crazy noises. So we're gonna try and hold this inside sidewall to pull the hook up. This is looking way crazier than when my other truck did it. I mean, this thing's clinging to a 90-degree face right now. And I can tell you, it's just not the line. You need that rear tire to drive the truck up the wall. Man, look at that. Let's check on the servo on this guy. This is a Reefs 777, direct power, 3S. Do not plug it into 4S, it will fry it. 3S limited, direct power, but these servos are some of the absolute most like no quit inside of a servo that I own. The 777s and the 888s just don't give up. You can put them in stupid binds and they just keep fighting. Oh much. All right, well, this one didn't exactly just drive up it either, so I suppose it's a good thing that both these trucks are having to earn it. So at least we got that going for us in the comparison, that they're both 777s, so similar steering ability. Yeah, so this guy struggling to reach the hook before she flips over backwards, which is very interesting. If you guys like the bed setup I have on this, this is a Rock Pirates RC hardline bed that I modified to fit around the frame rails. I also had to narrow part of it as well. And then I've got the Rock Pirates RC roof rack that I bolted to the bed. And I just had to drill out the holes that pre-existed. I had to drill them out just a little bit to line up with the holes on that roof rack. So you can do kind of a headache rack looking setup with our hardline bed. I've done it before, and this truck just looked a little empty back there, so I put a hardline bed on it. Man, just not liking it. I feel like I've had it on the line and it really legitimately doesn't want it. I don't know if she's too short or the track width difference is messing us up. Right rear tires just slowly falling in and ruining the line. Yeah, I gotta take an L on this one, which is super strange. I wouldn't expect there to be a difference between these trucks on this obstacle, and this one's just not climbing. Something to do with that rear end not wanting to do it. All right, bit of a slow finesse start. We got our trail dog out here, Sydney, with us. Sydney loves coming out rock crawling with me. It's the way she gets out of the house and gets some exercise. Okay, this one's always tricky to get both fronts up before you run out of that ledge in the rear. Yeah. A lot of loose rock out here today, and I'm struggling to hang on to the rocks. Get the front up. Get the front up. Yeah, so with the added front weight, it is harder to get that front end to pull up ledges like that when you have limited traction, but it was still able to do it, so that's a good sign. It's not too much weight in the front. We're articulating over here because that front right has all the traction, and it's got nothing to do with the traction. Rear tires and some undercuts. Got the Rock Pirates angled skid for the Vanquish VRD. This is going to be a challenging one for this truck on straight axles. Come on, I know she can do it. That was it. Yeah, I need to get the rear closer to the camera because that's the angle it wants to pull up on. Get the belly out of the rock. Now, then the rear shifted. We're having to earn this one. I've had a lot of trucks drive through this, and mostly portal trucks, I believe. They just get that little bit extra belly clearance compared to this truck. However, that also makes this inherently stable. This truck is super planted. Yeah, look at that front tire, absolutely putting in work. Man, I'm really having to work for this. I expected to struggle a bit, but there we go. Now we got to get through the hard belly obstacle, which is getting up and over this point, which means we're going to use some throttle. Front tire's staying pretty planted through that, honestly. Okay, now we're stable. Now we got to rocket this thing up and over. So that's where having less rotational weight is going to be a big benefit. By swapping out brass rings in the wheels for lighter weight plastic rings, it has more punch. It doesn't have to get that extra weight accelerated with your motor. And by leaving it on the knuckles, you have less rotational mass. So it's more punchy. It's trying to unload on us right here. So we'll try the crack line instead of trying to hook that ledge at the top. I guess we'll just drive all the way into the pocket and then get that front right up and through. Using them Rock Pirates aluminum sliders. Sydney's smelling my hat. Looking pretty wild up here. That's not looking good. This is a little much. Oh, yeah, now we're in trouble. It's stable, but I don't have an option to back up. I'd have to like floor it like this. Sydney's very curious what we got going on. So let's try committing to this left line a little more. Yeah, a little more. Okay, we'll take the reverse to get the rear set where we want. The sliders are killing us right now. These are the 7-inch wide sliders. There we go, she finally rotated. That is not the prettiest I've ever got through there. Okay, so let's make a prediction going into this one. I bet because of the rear portal axle, we should have a little more belly clearance. If it's got a shorter wheelbase, that rear tire is going to be up on the ledge a little further, and it should help it climb up this. Okay, we got the pole just like with the straight axle truck. And now we just got to get the belly through. Straight front axle is not going to give us added clearance to the skid in the front. It's the rear tires poking out a little more that should give us that difference like we just saw. Very nice. So it did what I predicted. Maybe it's because of why I said it was. Maybe I just got lucky. Okay, this guy, we're gonna use our secure throttle response and snap this thing up and over. A little too much sauce at the first one. Our second attempt got it right up and over. Let's try the front right hook. Our other truck didn't like it, so let's just see if there's a difference here. We're floating that front left. Yeah, and then it stands up too vertical and it tries to backflip. Just doesn't like that. So let's crawl it like a crack. Yep, just like the other class 2. I wanted to go way off to the right, drive into the wall before transferring over. Our sliders aren't as long on this truck. There we are, we're getting into them. It's doing the same crazy stuff. So I do feel that we're gonna see that a lot where the trucks act almost the same from a mullet to the straight axle class 2. I do feel that this truck is more planted than the Portal VRD. I have a lot of wheel time with Portal VRDs, and that straight front axle definitely keeps them happy in the front. A little reverse there. I'll try and get that front end a little further. That right rear tire, trying to climb with the top edge of the tread, will definitely try and make your truck unload and flip. And these sliders are digging into the rocks. I'm not surprised by its actions on any of this. It doesn't like that. And I can't get it lined up where I want without the slider hitting. And now we're in the back corner of the cab. Come on. Get up there, Mullet. You should be able to do this, man. This is like one of my classic hard lines out here. But I can't think of a reason why it shouldn't be able to do this. If you would have guessed, if I would have guessed, I'd have been like, oh yeah, it'll go up this. Very, very interesting behavior. because this truck is good. It can do a lot of stuff. Let's see if we can hook the top left. That's torque twisting. I wanted to hook the top left tire up top, but that's not going to make any difference anyway. There we go. Okay, I had to do a big backup to get it into position. Forward bias is keeping that left rear floating in the air. Now this obstacle, you want to get the tires up near the wall. Front and rear, you want to try and get them up against the wall. Well, let's get over to the side here. We're going to watch the belly as we come down this. We're going to try and creep and crawl this, but there will be a point where it's going to let go and slide down. We're about there. All the weight in the front. You can see how light that rear end got. It was 3 inches hanging in the air. And then with all the front end planted like this, all the weight's in the front of the truck with this strong of a servo, it's going to try and move the rear end as we shift our servo around. Try and hold on to that front tire hook to hold the truck on the ledge as the rear comes down. It's tilted way out towards the edge. Don't make any sudden steering movements. I think she's got it. She's planted. First shot. Okay, let's get this rear planted again. Now we can try and keep our tire not super aggressively climbing, just up on the wall. Now we're going to turn into it. We're going to straighten as we push into this wall and even turn down into this rock to counteract it wanting to lift up the rear tire. Now we really need to get this thing to bite into this wall. Awesome steering angle on these F10 straights with servo on axle. This is where we need our forward bias. It does have it. It's starting to pick up that rear tire even on a crazy incline like this. And now we're going to try and get this sidewall to pull the whole truck up. These BFG crawlers, being super used like this, have tons of traction from being a little bit feathered there. This truck made that look good. One shot that whole edge. That was nice. It acted exactly how I wanted and very predictable. That's why I like this truck so much. It's not my super most extreme build I have or anything like that. It just works and crawls along. And I also love the crawlers too. Look at these wheels though, man. Those Vanquish Deltas. Whew. Hell yeah. All right. This should have no excuse not to be able to drive this line the same as the C2 straight axle. On our skid a little bit, that's all right. Because if the straight axle could get through in the front, this should have the clearance to get through in the front. And if the straight axle got through in the rear, the portal should have no excuse. Just cleared that skid. Now we're on the link. Oh, oh man. Luckily you have such fine resolution on these throttle control with these ESCs. Set it down, get that inside sidewall to hold the truck. Man, that's close. Yeah, the front end just got offline a bit. That could be me right there on bad line choice. I should have been trying to get a little closer to that wall, perhaps. Okay, can't turn on extreme angles there. Guys, I'm really surprised at the results we're seeing here. Like this legitimately seems like there is a difference in these trucks. which I thought this would be kind of a boring video because I figured they'd be so closely matched. Now, I don't know. I mean, this truck has more weight in the rear. It should handle downhills a little better. Just having those portal gears and stuff, that's more weight. Okay, drive forward. Okay, we're down on our diff. There we go, we're off our diff. Inside sidewall is gonna hold us. Right rear's in the air. Overdrive pulled it through. Okay. Took a few attempts. Now the one where I turned it really hard and tried to drive forward, that was probably a bad driving call. The first attempt, I mean, I didn't think I was that far offline. Should have been very similar. Just gonna scrub this tire along. If you turn in too sharp, it's gonna force the rear end to the outside edge of that cliff as it drops, and it'll get you really sideways. Turn in, straighten, turn out as we pull up. The other rear tire falls in to where the lower ledge is. We're gonna look for the pinch and pull up on the sidewall as those rears get into position. Try not to fall off a cliff myself. All right, that looked good. That was a good pull. I've struggled on that line before a lot with other cars, and this guy made it look good too. So, totally redeemed himself. Although we are seeing some differences on these lines. I'm surprised. All right, did a little trail repair. Well, fortunately, I brought a truck with the exact same knuckle setup, so I had to go steal the parts off of that truck. So Mullet is down a screw and an M3 lock nut. I used too short of hardware on the link setup I knew that I had, and apparently that's how long it'll last you. So definitely get the appropriate length hardware for doing this setup. It's better to have a little too much thread sticking out than not enough. So, all right, here we go. Nice little drop-in rotation here. Looking good. Now we're gonna come over to this guy, which is a pretty aggressive breakover climb. We're trying to get our rear end set up. Okay, I've seen portal trucks do this. It usually ends up bellying out, so we'll see what happens. And our link's on the ground. Front right's doing everything it can. And doing this, your front end's gonna drop into a pocket and run out of traction. Unless you can sidewall enough here. I don't see it happening, so it's just getting itself in trouble at this point. Yeah, let's get a different approach here. Now I had tried that without backing up. So let's get in here, let's get it rotated, and then back up. Get that front end to pop up. It's amazing that it makes that turn as good as it does. Now that might put us where we want to go. We just kept with the turn. You can hear that skid scraping. We're halfway through the skid though. The problem is as it slides passenger, the more in trouble it really gets. There we go. Come on. Now we're going crazy, driver. Okay. This is where it wants to go up. Is way up above that ledge. right, it crawled it. I didn't have to get crazy with bumping or anything, but not quite the line I had envisioned for it, but sometimes that's how it goes. You just got to figure it out as you go. Look at this thing just move through these rocks. It really doesn't care. All right, we're gonna send the mullet in here, drop in, get rotated. Well, we rotated a little early, that's all right. Now we're gonna drive out to the outside edge. Try and keep these rears all the way over here. We're gonna see if it can do a little further right than our straight axle did. And then if that doesn't work, we'll go back up driver and see what happens. Yeah, it's not gonna pull right there. Yeah, so that pulled up way further passenger, probably a whole truck width passenger. So that shows me there is a difference in belly height there because of that portal rear. So she's got a little added clearance in this setup. That pretty well definitively proved that to me. I did this line not long ago. I don't remember what it was I was driving, but I got it to sneak through on this ledge. Now this truck's fairly narrow and it's got a low profile, high clearance body, so this may not be as dramatic, but your tire starts getting into this overhang and they don't like to go forward when they're rubbing on the top edge of the tire. So you gotta really push it out to the edge here. Let's see if we can get this rear end of track in the same position on our skid. Yeah, this one's looking like it's gonna be pretty melodramatic. Is that the right word for that? I thought so. I think so. I don't know. Sweet. Little scrapage, no big deal. Cruised through and made it. This could come down to something as simple as body clearance. We're gonna see if this cab wants to squeeze through like our Coyote body did. And having that headache rack, this body might not be able to flex out of the way like our Coyote possibly did. So it's gonna be the same exact track width because it's the same front axle on the front. The rear's a touch wider. Body stayed out of the rocks for the most part, a little bit of skid into the rocks. Our rear also stayed planted on that ledge. Our body's getting smashed in here though. Just using our servo to try and break some friction here. Really cool line. I love how it barely fits. That's awesome. Now this one I kind of just refer to as my buggy line. It's just kind of stupidity. But it is possible to drive this line. Sydney's going to run in front of the camera again. That's one of her favorite activities. But I reverse into this because if you drop nose first, the hood hits the rock on the far side and you just end up stuck. So backing in allows us to control the vehicle's descent a little bit better because of the forward weight. This is my first time driving with these weights, by the way. So we're gonna see if we can set this down nice and easy. If my front end were in this position, the truck would have already fallen off the wall. Yeah, very, very mellow drop there. Don't know if I have enough rubber on the ground. Let's give it a little reverse here. Pop that rear out. Uh-oh. This is a spot where having dig really helps. All right, all right. Having enough weight to have the bias, but sometimes not too much weight so it actually will float tires and stuff. It's a very delicate balance. That's why people find 60-40 is best and not 80-20. We made it through, took a little work, got pretty ugly, but I made it happen. small lightweight motor in this setup, so we're seeing a difference in chassis weight in these as well. This guy has a ton of rear clearance. With the shorter chassis, as we drop in backwards, we may not have anything to hold us. No, can't go any further forward. We may not have anything to hold us from just flipping like to the roof and like ruining this line. There we go, that should be about the same approach here. I'm really gonna crank the front end around right there. Okay, rear axle's dropping in. Sydney is in my face. What are you doing? Do you need pets this bad? You need some pets? You wanted to say hi to the people? She's just such an attention bug. Oh, our truck's backing up. This controller I have is so old. Sydney, move. Go away. This controller's so old, the neutral position's kind of wore out, and sometimes she likes to sit in reverse. Oh dear. Yeah, we're in trouble here. Driving forward and it's pushing us way up and backwards. Little reverse. I mean, I guess we'll show the strength of this truck. Well, a quick little demonstration of that. I was hoping I gave it enough throttle to pull it back out, but it did not. I mean, I was highly entertained. That was pretty crazy, but I don't feel that it was really a fair comparison there. It didn't have any issues based on the differences between the trucks. I think it just really was from where it dropped in versus the other truck. That's it. There we go. Yeah, dropped a little more true this time to where the other truck did, I think. And it's been 30 minutes between the first time I dropped it with the other truck and this truck, so if some details are a little off, I apologize. See, I actually don't want that front tire to drop in like it is. It binds the hell out of this thing to do that. Okay, well, the other way was probably better overall. Oh, got the rear over the edge. Pull it up and out. Don't have the belly clearance. It's coming towards me where I'm sitting. That was pretty close. It almost pulled it super clean. Come on now. Look at the steering angle on that. We're just nosed into a crack with all of our forward bias. And we're bellied out. Yeah, so didn't quite get the line super clean, but she can do it if we forced it to. All right, guys, this is big consequences stuff where if this thing rolls, it's gonna roll a long, far way. We're gonna wrap that edge around, but we're just trusting this truck's stability. The right rear was in the air for a moment there. We're just gonna square up to this next drop. It looks nasty with lots of ledges and stuff, and it's gonna get steep. But I think as long as we pretty well square up to it, I think we're gonna be okay. There's not really anywhere to throttle out either. This Fusion makes this perfect for this, where you can really creep and crawl it. Straight axles with a VFD transmission. I think I've got the 13 tooth pinion. Nice. Not much throttle out at all. I just had a light amount of throttle on. High overdrive is pulling that front end over. Lots of steering angle on the F10s, which without a tie rod, these knuckles allow like 80 degrees of freaking turning. Super steep descent. So these knuckles are gonna allow tons of steering angle, but getting the tie rod to clear your pumpkin and stuff is gonna be an issue. Now I do have a high clearance tie rod on this where it's bent around the pumpkin. And that also helps clear the servo horn as well. So that's a small detail on this truck. Some might not know about. We'll take a look at it right here. See how it's got a slight bend in it around the pumpkin? I think that's an old Hardcore RC link. And I don't remember if that was originally a tie rod link or if it was a high clearance link that I repurposed. I don't know, somehow I've ended up with a box of links with like 60 spare RC links. And I'm like, it's weird because I bought a couple sets of links, but also every RC I have still has their links. So I don't know why I have so many spares. But over time, I guess you just end up with a ton. Like I could build a full 4-link truck front and rear in custom wheelbases with the amount of links I have. Here we go. Nice transition through here. That corner turned out super good. Being able to turn into that wall just enough. Get that rear end floated across. And really just, again, just with the predictability, it just does what I want it to. And it reacts how I expect it to. A lot of stress coming through that. But I know these SL3D squid inserts are gonna fight and keep my tires squared up. Coming through this crack, the left rear is gonna get ugly and it's gonna try and force the front end to go in different ways. It always does. You know what, we're gonna turn into it. Oh, we're in trouble now. Lost that rear tire holding us up. She's pretty trapped in here. Able to claw its way right back up and out. Nice little hop there. It's a good thing it turned because there's nowhere to go straight. Okay, on our belly again. So I'm curious if we're gonna see as much skid being used on the Mullet. Because that portal rear, it should kick up the rear end of the truck just a little bit. We're gonna get this rear tire on that rock. It's gonna push us right through. Just little differences in lines can do that. Man, this spot is super sketchy for me to stand in. Like, it's just a crazy vertical hill behind me that's very slick and it's hard to stand still. I think we got her lined up on a very similar drop-in line right here. Like I talked about last time, we're gonna follow that little ledge. Nice little throttle out. Just minimal. All right, I gotta move again. There we go. I don't remember taking a reverse last time. Okay, that set us back up where we wanted to be though, compared to the other truck. So maybe this is where we ended up. Slider's just gonna clear these rocks as it works its way through. I'm ready to throttle out on this one. But like I said, it should have a little more rear weight. Yeah, it stuck it. It was planted. That overdrive's trying to pull that rear end up and over itself. This truck doglegs a bit, but we did see the straight axle truck doglegging too. I think this one gets a little more from the portal design. There's just more leverage from the traction point at the bottom of the tire to the pressure point against the chassis. I'm not sure exactly what to call that. But you have more of a lever to get that rear axle to pop up and dogleg compared to a straight axle. Nice, nice, nice. Happy with that so far. Get her off the belly. Yeah, you pretty well just turn it all the way until that front end kind of slowly works its way down, and then we'll barely turn back into that wall while keeping it pretty turned, and let that sidewall slowly work and pull the truck up and around. And now I'm going to turn it all the way. Again, with that crazy steering angle. These brass knuckles definitely don't limit you on steering abilities, which is great, and they're super heavy, so they did a good job with that. If we want to add front weight, give it some front weight. You can always remove material to tune it if you had to. But I think these trucks work really good with this amount of weight. Which my Class 2 acted pretty normal compared to how it used to with those SSD knuckles and the brass rings in the wheels. Again, I eliminated the brass rings in the wheels, so now it's just brass on the knuckles. And even this guy did the same thing. I had SSD knuckles on it as well, and I would run brass rings in the front based on my experience from my other Class 2. It just wanted that little bit extra weight over those SSD knuckles. They just weren't quite enough. Sydney? So we're gonna get into the scale hardware again. Maybe not. Sidewall's gonna have just enough to push us through. Thanks to those SL3D RC squid inserts. Should we try a more aggressive right line through here? Climb that front right up a little higher. Now we run out of a ledge on the front left. So then we'll crank it back left. Oh, that front right pulled it through. Almost, come on. It was a little prettier this time. Nice little hops too. Okay, we're gonna try and get up this left side ledge straight. Put it on the belly, see what happens. It's close. It's super close. Yep, it will drag it up. Remember, my other truck, I had to touch the rock down here to get the rear to clear it. This truck pulled straight up and through on the outside ledge. So again, seeing a little bit of a belly difference. Okay, where we drove out to the point, we have now turned our trucks around, and we'll be backing down this. I'm doing this because I actually trust this truck to drive straight down it. It's extremely sketchy, but I don't trust the Mullet to do it. It's so light in the rear. I don't think it will. So again, forward weight keeping us planted on the belly, which could be a good or a bad thing. It adds friction there to hold the truck in place, but once it slides and lets go, it can be unpredictable. I typically prefer to have tires on the ground for control of the vehicle rather than a skid plate. Okay, now I'm getting too much angle on this. Yep, working the rear over. And there's nothing behind this truck right now. There is a cliff down there. Just kind of hoping I can lay it down into the sidewall. There we go, and bring the front end back up. Absolutely ridiculous, sketchy stuff, like big drop. And it's a drop off, it's not like a hill behind us that's really steep. No, it's literally a cliff. So let's get it. There she is. Cool. There it is, guys. So, I haven't driven my Mullet yet. I edited the video differently. This truck did really well, as I know it will. My favorite tire combo, favorite insert combo on my favorite Class 2. She just works. And as with all my testing, I'll be the first one to tell you, this stuff is flawed. This is not a perfect test or comparison. The other chassis is not a VRD. It's a VRD Kraken from Rock Pirate, so it's got some tweaks in design. It's not a straight up VRD like this Mullet chassis is. It's the VRD Mullet chassis though. So even if it was a VRD on my other truck, this chassis has different shock tower design in the front versus a VRD. So no matter how you compare it, it's going to have a different chassis design, and that's okay. It's fun to still compare different things. Another example of why this test isn't perfect is our hub setup. I have 350s on the front and rear wheels of this truck, but the rear axle is wider than the front. So on my other truck, it has a square track width, and on this truck, the rear track width is wider than the front, which is super odd. It's not really scaled to anything in real life. Usually, you'll see a wider front than rear in real life. On full size, I should say. This is real life. Okay, I'm liking where we're headed. I'm still just gonna get that rear moved over just a little bit more. Lots of moss. I don't want to go too far that way on the moss. Yep. Okay. This is sketchy because it will try and pick up that front tire and float it and make this thing flip over. Again, with the forward weight bias from these Vanquish brass knuckles coming through when we need them to keep that front end planted to pull that rear through. And there it is. So guys, you know, I don't have like some amazing clarity at the end of this. Truthfully, it's interesting to see that there were some differences, honestly. I thought they'd be really similar, and we did see some differences in performance. But overall, this truck still made every obstacle. We just had to find its way through versus the straight axle truck. There we go. And we do see just a little bit more belly clearance based on this setup. Overall, guys, these are both very impressive trucks considering you can get basically this performance out of the box with a VRD straight axle kit or a VRD Mullet, something like that. Both of these trucks are excellent, and I hope that you can see that these have real potential for performance. And I'm really enjoying driving them. I really do also like the fit and finish of the Vanquish knuckles. I think it's a cool design with this top system so that you can do the H10 steering on the same knuckle. However, I don't love that it's single shear, meaning that the screw mounts from one side. There's a long lever here to bend the screw with your tie rod, and I'm a dick to these things. I really smash them through spots that don't belong. I would not be surprised to see some bent hardware soon. So drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think between this comparison, whether it was just a total crapshoot of a comparison, whether it made any sense at all, whether you enjoyed it. I don't know, but I really appreciate you guys watching. Hit the links down below. You can pick up the trucks there through affiliate links. It'll kick a couple bucks my way. It'll help me out. Or you can go to westdesertwheeler.com, grab a sticker pack, go to my merch site where you can pick up a shirt. All my kids' merch is marked all the way down, so if you want to grab one for a kid, it's as cheap as I can get it to you. I hope you guys enjoy it. We'll see you in the next one. Keep the rubber side down.